Gayatri.
Lovely to meet you again.
Same here.
So, thank you for giving us time. And we thought we would highlight about your research work in the context of adoption in India and what you've been doing with your students. So if you could share some of your thoughts, it would be useful to, our audience and the other stakeholders in the adoption ecosystem. So, so let's get cracking.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, would you like to ask me something?
Yes. So, Sharon, the first thing that I've been wanting to ask you is, what inspired you to take up research in adoption with your students at Mount Carmel? I mean, where did that begin and how did it begin, that journey?
Okay, so I think I should start at the very beginning, Gayatri. So, our research project is titled Project Sitara, and the project is being conducted as part of the undergraduate program of communication studies at Mount Carmel College. Although at this point I think I must confess that the root of this entire project began with me asking questions that were troubling me for a really long time. So, there was a time back in 2012 when my family decided that it was time to bring home our second baby via adoption. And, around that time we tried registering with several agencies who said that, for some reason it was not working out. Agencies were turning down our application. And, almost everybody had this common analogy that they were using, well, rather weird analogy, where they would say things like, you already have one candle to light up your dark corner, why would you need two? And, I was both bewildered and annoyed at the same time. And I think it was around that time that I began to ask a lot of questions that were uncomfortable, questions that were that I felt I really needed answers to. I tried understanding the system, tried to understand what the policies and legalities were that governed this entire system of adoption. And quite coincidentally, around that time is when, within the department, I was asked to handle the research methods paper. And I was in the middle of this personal quest. So that I remember walking into the classroom and saying, look, I'm going to be doing this paper with you. Here's what I'm really deeply involved in. This is an area of deep interest to me. Would you like to get involved as well? And well, that's how it began, with my girls turning around and showing equal interest, and then we began asking these questions, and now, we are 3 years into the project, and it's working out very well.
Wow, that's totally inspiring.
Yeah, it was
a very inspiring journey.
It was quite interesting because I think, also to tell you a little bit about the name, Sitara was, it was a name that we had thought of for our second baby. So in many ways we were pursuing that elusive star. And well, we found her, didn't name her Sitara, but my project got named that. So
what was the response with your students, and when you presented them this opportunity of, kind of doing research in adoption?
It was quite incredible actually. It never fails to amaze me that 19 and 20-year-olds are so willing to invest their time and energy and commitment into a space that is so far removed from their reality, and the kind of commitment and motivation that I have got from my research girls has been quite commendable. In fact, I remember when our second baby came home, and the joy that sort of went across like a ripple in the classroom. I started calling them my fellow Sitara gazers. It was, it was truly heartwarming.
Yeah. So, Sharon, has your data been used effectively in the adoption spaces? Has it been incorporated in the adoption ecosystem by people working in, forming policies or campaigns or programs?
Well, it has been used in several spaces. One particular thing that I can immediately talk to you about is this campaign that is coming up on the 14th of November. It's called WAIC, Where Are India's Children? And I mean, it's bizarre how like minds meet over similar questions, you know, because when Smriti, Pratima and you, when all of us sat together and discussed the idea of where are India's children and why are children not part of the statistics, and are they being abandoned and not being accounted for, I think they were questions that were troubling all of us. So, these are also questions that we, as as a group that is trying to understand the sphere of rehabilitation, specifically through adoption, it was a question that we were also trying to address at several levels. So, a lot of the data that got gathered around that sphere got we were able to offer to Smriti and Pratima for that campaign. We were able to put together an entire communication segment for them. We did their content, we did their design, and all of that was possible because we came from a space where we understood what was happening. And all credit, I think, at some level must go to my students who were so willing, so creative and so involved in this, you know. And like I said earlier, it's commendable that young people are this involved in something that could otherwise be thought of as something that would interest only older people and people only within that space.
Yeah.
So where else is it getting used? Several spaces. The other space that I think I can immediately talk to you about is this. Is the area where I'm able to answer queries from an informed space. Interestingly, I've been getting a lot of queries with regard to policies, with regard to legalities surrounding adoption from places like Australia, and we are trying to study international adoptions. We're trying to see what our bilateral relationships are with countries, with certain countries that come within the Hague Convention, etc. And there have been people who've been reaching out. They've heard about Project Sitara. They want to know how we can help them understand the system better. It was quite amazing that during the course of our research, Australia, which had closed its doors to Indian adoption, opened it up, and it happened bang in the middle of us trying to understand why they had closed it. So it was quite, it was it was a very interesting space for us to be at in our research journey.
It's like, tell me, is it the lack of consistency and complete data in some states, have prevented researchers to undertake any study in adoption or research in adoption? Is that one of the reasons? What do you think? I mean, what?
Yeah, absolutely. So inconsistencies, there is fear, there is ignorance, there is red tape, there is the presence of a ridiculous hierarchy. All of these are problems that we as researchers are encountering repeatedly.
So is it because of the closed adoptions in India that hampers sometimes research in our country?
Well, yeah, I suppose. See, we have this culture of secrecy, right? We like to pretend that certain things are a particular way according to the template that fits another. So, so therefore we complicate our lives in many ways. So yes, closed adoptions is a huge, one more, reason why.
Added to the whole, kind of chaos.
Yeah, absolutely. While it's necessary, because, it is to respect everybody's space there, I'm not questioning that. But what I'm pointing out is that, there is a resistance to this kind of conversation because of the existence of closed adoption in our country. But what also happens with adoptions that take place through, let's say, personal laws, right? Like HAMA, which is the Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act, is that, and it's so troubling because I have found through my reading that babies and parents in many ways seem to melt into the system. it's difficult for us to keep track. It's difficult for us to locate these people. There is no documentation of them. Unlike a very systematic process that is being followed by the JJ Act, the Juvenile Justice Act, and CARA, which is, there seems to be a system in place there. Whereas personal laws, while they've been put together in order to codify a religion and the peculiarities of that religion and several other religions, there is a whole lot of there are many problems that come from that. One of the biggest things being that it is impossible to monitor adoptions that take place through Hama simply because there is no record.
Yes.
And therefore, the presence of all of these possible loopholes are there.
And it's also legal. The law is in place.
Of
so
course,
you
it's
have
in
two
place.
laws which are running parallelly today.
That's right. It's
adoption.
a law that is important because it is taking into consideration the fact that certain religions have certain requirements that need to be codified, that because of which keeping and it's important to keep that in mind in order to for adoption to take place within that system.
Sure. Yeah.
But it also presents huge loopholes, huge gaps. And I think it's time that the judiciary took note of this. It's a law that's been in existence long enough, and I don't know why. I mean, right now I know there's a lot of there are a lot of factions and groups that are looking into this and saying that it's time we amended Hama and all of that. I hope that comes through and that sees the light of day.